Sometimes it's really helpful for us to be able to pass in different things, different types even into a function, and then but not have it be like fully generic. That way, it's not like we don't have to know the size at compile time, because that's one of the limitations of, well, generics. But we can still basically have the same benefits, which is writing a single function, handling different types coming in. Now, if we need to do that, just like generics, we need to be able to have a trait that everything that we're trying to pass in shares. That way, we can eventually figure out what the size of things are in memory, or what methods are available or properties are available. So let's do an example of this again using our any trait, and also the just getting like the type ID and returning that. So if I want a function for like get type ID, function get type ID, and I want it to take something in, but I don't want it to take in something that's like the impl. I want it to take in an actual thing. So we can use something called a box for that. So we're gonna take in a what is this? This is a thing. We don't know what it is. I'm just gonna call this a boxed thing. And it's gonna implement a box. And you notice that box, we don't need to pull anything in, because box is popular enough, we're gonna use it enough that it's just in the prelude. It's just available everywhere. And so here at this point, now we can say what is gonna be inside of this. Now I could just give it a very specific type. I can just say, hey, you're gonna be a U32. And that's perfectly fine. But I can also say, use the dyn keyword, and then maybe something like the any trait. So it's dyn and then trait name. And then we're gonna return the type ID. So at this point in time, I should be able to take this box thing and get the type ID off of it. Now notice, I can actually just say box thing dot type ID. And that's because box thing, or any box, implements a deref that basically just returns whatever is inside of it. So we can use it as if it's not really there at all, as long as what we're trying to access is through dot notation. If we want to actually just like get the thing directly, we would have to use asterisk. But that's because a dot auto dereferences for us. So putting the asterisk here to dereference would actually dereference this, the type ID, which is not exactly what I want to do. So this works. To use it, we can say like let our type ID is equal to get type ID. Now to box something up, we're just gonna do box new, and then we can pass in whatever we want to pass in. So let's say maybe like 15.0 F32. And this will work just fine. Now we're not using type ID, but that's okay. So how do boxes how are they actually working? Because we're taking in a dynamically sized something here. Now the reason why this works is because behind the scenes, Rust is looking at memory and trying to figure out where to put things in there. Boxes allow us to take things from the stack that would normally go onto the stack and put them into the heap, but kind of also have them on the stack. It's a little bit confusing here. And I'm gonna do my best to explain this, but this is one of the areas where it can take a little bit long to like sort of grok and internalize. So let's head over to our whiteboard here. Okay, so let's imagine that we have like a classic a memory sort of like visualization. Usually I see people write that as a table, and I have no reason not to do exactly the same. So if we come back to our code, I'm just gonna write up here, I'm gonna take this variable. So let's do let number equals u. And then we're going to put number in here. So number is a 15 and it's an F32. So we have number and you're getting 15 and you're an F32. And that's stored in memory in the stack. It can be put into stack because Rust knows exactly how big this 15 is. It's in an F32. F32s are a constant size that never changes. There's a minimum and a maximum that this can take up memory-wise, and so it can request memory access from the operating system. Hey, give me some space. I need to store this, and then the operating system gives that space back. Okay. What if we had something where we don't know what the space is because it can grow and shrink? Examples of this would be like a full vector or a string. Well, in that case, we can't actually request space on the stack here because, well, we don't know how much space it's going to take. And there's a few times that we run into this inside of Rust. For example, using that dyn keyword, we're saying, hey, take anything that implements any. Well, that could be an F32. It could be a U8. It could be some other struct that has no size or a huge amount of size. The problem is we don't know what that is. So there's another part of memory over here. And I'm going to draw this like it's just a heap of stuff. And you may have heard of like the heap and the stack and other languages referenced in like what is happening. It's basically, think of it as just a place for us to just throw memory and not have to worry about it. Now, it still is actually memory on the memory chip that's in your computer, but it's treated slightly differently by the operating system and by Rust. So inside of here, we're going to have maybe a vector, let's say. So your vec, that's in here. Now it has an unknown amount of stuff, so it can grow and shrink. We have like other things which might grow and shrink. We don't really know how big they are, and it doesn't really matter. Now when I say we don't know, like the Rust knows, like they're keeping track of all of the stuff behind the scenes. We don't have to as developers, which is great, but Rust does, like, we don't have to say like, hey, allocate for me like 15 times an F32 size, because that's how much I need to know. It's allocate an unknown number of things that are going to hold F32s. So then what happens is we do need to store something on the stack. So that's where our box comes in. Now, a vector, a string, like capital V, capital S, those are kind of like boxes too, in so much that they sit here on the stack. So let's take a look at this vector example. So we have this vector here, and it's really just going to point to where this is in memory. Now, it's not just going to point to it. It's not just going to be a memory address. It's going to be a memory address and a size. Like, okay, so it's this like A9F32 blah blah blah, and it's like 75. Whatever, that's just an abstraction of like however many units of size that it needs to read all of the vector. So that's what's happening here, and the box is no different. The box allows us to take something that is normally unknown size over here on the heap and put it over here into the stack, so we can say we know exactly what size this is. Well, we know what the size is because all that is just a pointer to someplace in the heap and then how many bits it is to read. So that's actually perfect for what we really need. So if we come back to here and we look at this again with that in mind, we're saying, hey, we don't know necessarily what this is. So therefore, box it up, and we're just saying, hey, you could be anything in here. We don't know how big this is at compile time, but at runtime, we do. That's why this works. It's not like so black magic that's breaking how the compiler works. What it's saying is, at compile time, we don't know what this is. So runtime, go ahead and do some checks. So behind the scenes, Rust is gonna write some code, or at least have code available for us, that does all this memory management behind the scenes. And that's going to cause a, that is a runtime, so there is a little bit of a cost associated with it. That's a lot, that's not as good as if we had just, statically sized things that we know exactly what they are. So it is something to be aware of. Now, that being said, if you're building applications like that don't need to have like nanosecond precision, nanosecond, picosecond, basically like even faster than milliseconds, basically you just need it to be the fastest it can possibly do, then that's something you probably need to be aware of. That being said, I still would write code like this with Dyn, and only then use some kind of profiler to determine whether or not this is okay, or if you need to refactor it, because sometimes things are a little bit faster than you might expect. So a box Dyn allows us to basically, in summary, allows us to store things on the heap and then basically treat it as if it's on the stack. And that is the same as string, that's the same as vector, and a few other types that we might see in the future. But you may see these boxes used all over the place, and that's the reason why. If you have a problem where something is telling you, I don't know what the dynamic size is, try throwing it into a box. All right, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.